This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Dean Jean. Dean Jean. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Mondays with the Mayor. Now, week number 18. And it's just me solo today. With Kim's got so much going on. She was actually out kayaking today, having Friday off and today off. She was able to get out on the water and kayak today, and now spending time with our daughter. So we're going to get right into it with the Mayor of Fort Myers Beach. Dan Allers is with us again for week number 18 of Mondays with the Mayor. And
18 already. 18 already, huh?
Yeah.
I got a, before we get started, can I start with a public service announcement?
Please do.
So, just, I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but so, my daughter was in town or is in town for Easter this weekend. So today we thought we'd take her for a drive up, and I haven't even been there yet, but thought we'd take a drive up to Captiva, up through Sanibel. And, it's the first time I had been over to Sanibel and Captiva area. So we hopped in the Jeep and we headed up to the Mucky Duck and, spent a little bit of time there. And on the way back, I there was not a sheriff's deputy, but a Sanibel police officer turning left. And I saw his head kind of whip around and look at me. And anyway, we keep going, and he ended up pulling us over. And he walks up to the, it's a long story, so well, I'll make it quick. But anyway, he walks up to the Jeep and he says, I pulled you over. I said, no. He goes, this license plate is reported stolen. Exactly. That's exactly what my face looked like. I go, whoa. So, of course, we go, show them all the paperwork, do everything we're supposed to be doing. And long story longer, what ended up happening, or what they figured out happened, was someone had stolen the plate off of our Jeep and put a stolen plate on. Someone took the time to take the plate off the back of our Jeep, put a stolen plate on it, and steal ours. So I guess my public service announcement is check, if you're living on the island or anywhere, check your plates, make sure your plates match your vehicle, because evidently and they said this has happened before, but I'll tell you, the three officers that were there could have been more professional, more courteous, more respectful. Even from the very beginning, the two of them walked up and had no idea what they were walking up to, and they were very polite and professional from the beginning. So kudos to the Sanibel Police Department for being very professional and working through the situation, and everything worked out fine. But evidently there's people stealing license plates, so double check your license plates.
The thing that is interesting to me about that is how, you're not doing anything wrong, right? So how do they even know to run your plate? Like, what was the reason for it?
So if you remember back in the day when we were talking about on the beach, having put up these cameras that we were putting up. So they're all over Lee County, and when they detect a license plate that is on the stolen, and I'm just assuming that this is what it is, because this is what the cameras were doing that we were putting up. When they detect a stolen license plate, it alerts them right away. So they were definitely looking for us from when we came over that bridge, would be my assumption. But and when we were going down Sandcap Road, they saw us and stopped us right by the school. So
what happens is those cameras that we were supposed to have on Fort Myers Beach, I think
we had them. We had them.
Yeah, it was by the bridge and the whole thing. They read the plates, and then it automatically must send out an alert to the authorities that they found the stolen plate.
It must, because he was going the opposite direction and he was stopped. So as we were going by, he would have had to look in his mirror, see, read the license plate and check to see if it was stolen. So my only assumption is they, Lee County Sheriff's Office, whoever, Sanibel Police, whoever, they must have cameras that they can read these license plates, and if they're stolen, it must send out an immediate alert that this person's on the island.
So, and your mom says Big Brother is always watching.
Well, that's good. I mean,
How would you know? Who checks their license plates?
Well, we found out that this license plate that was on our vehicle was actually stolen 2 months ago. So we've been driving around with a stolen license plate for probably 2 months. We don't know. And what was weird is when it came out of the Mucky Duck, I looked at the license plate as I was walking up, and normally your tag on your license plate is your birthday. So like mine's July. So normally it says 07 of 23 or 07 of 24. And I noticed today that it said 12 of 23. So that's kind of strange. And I didn't really think anything about it, but
Sure.
That's a good way to tell is your tag. If it's not your birth month, definitely make sure you look at your registration and that your license lines up with what you're supposed to have.
Yeah, of course. Now, when the show's over, I'm going to go out to look at the beast and see if my license plate is correct one. But I don't even know what my license plate is supposed to be, except for
it's on your registration that you have inside your glove box.
Yeah.
You should have inside your glove box.
Crazy. So
yeah, so that could have been a bad day, but I was mortified. I got my daughter in the back, but again, these three police officers, they were more than professional.
Yeah. So, I touched on it a little bit with Karen on Saturday, and I really don't think I've done it enough. And that is to give a shout out to the folks at Diamond Head for everything that they've done for the community, from hosting your meetings to, the last week, it was like on Monday, we were there the whole day doing the interviews and the stuff like that. And then the Easter egg hunt on Saturday. And I mean, they really have stepped up and done so much for Fort Myers Beach. I mean, that place back there was like 4,000 eggs littered in the sand on Saturday.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Neil Hopgood and Marcel and those guys, the Diamond Head team, they as you said, they've really stepped up and helped our community in ways that is unimaginable. They're allowing us to have every meeting there. They're allowing the kids to have that, and everybody enjoyed it. All the parents absolutely loved it. The kids loved it. Everybody loved it. It was, how often do you get to search for eggs on the beach? And right. And they were packed afterwards upstairs. Everybody was eating for the raffle. So, I mean, it was a win-win for everybody, but it was really nice to see.
Yeah. I wasn't able to stay because we had our show to for when the whistle went off and the kids went looking for the eggs. But usually those things, you try to have them organized, but it's a free for all. And so, I mean, were you there when they started? Were they able to keep any kind of control?
Well, I heard from the Easter Bunny that the 0 to 4 age group, they were very patient and waited for the Easter Bunny to say go. Then you got to the 5 to 8, and they were a little more anxious, but they still waited till the Easter Bunny said go. And then when you get to the 9 to 13, I think it was, they were all around the outside because the organizers didn't feel, and rightly so, that it was in the best interest to have them all lined up in a line, be like cattle trying to get in.
Sure.
So the Easter Bunny walked out to the center of the ring, if you will, and said, "Are you ready?" And evidently that means go, because they just came in. It was a little warm, so the Easter Bunny was okay with the not being patient.
So did you say the Easter Bunny said something? Because when I was growing up, I don't remember ever having a talking Easter Bunny, but I guess.
Well, the Easter Bunny this year had a megaphone, so you can with a child's voice, so you can imagine how well that went over.
Yeah. All right. So in less fun news, on Friday in the 11th hour of the 30-day window, and I don't know how much you can or want to even talk about this, Audubon filed a lawsuit against the town over the dune walkover, which you guys approved, and we thought was behind you, or maybe you thought was behind you. And so, I mean, any comment at all on that situation?
Well, I don't know what I can and can't say. Obviously, they, as you said, they filed. I think it was like after 3:00 on the last day that they could file. They filed the lawsuit against the town. I read through it today. Talked with John Heron about it today. So I don't know what I can and can't say other than they filed a lawsuit. Try to squash that, or quash, I think they said, or quash the resolution that was passed by the town council. So we'll see where it goes. It goes through, I think John said it in the meeting. It's, there's a chance that anybody can sue no matter which way it went in the council. So we're at where we're at now, and we'll see what the judge has to say about it.
So one of the things, if you go back to the town council meeting in March, one of the things that you all did, the council, was you kind of turned Audubon turned the town council meeting into a courtroom, and they were asking questions of the staff and trying to ask questions of Rude's attorney, or there was some back and forth there, and you guys felt like you should do that just in case there was a lawsuit where you could say, look, we went the extra mile, we gave them their chance in front of us, and we still voted yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of everybody gets to speak their mind and present their case, and they were allowed to do that at that and I shouldn't say hearing it, but at that council meeting, they asked a lot of questions, and as I said at the end, that the questions that they were asking were already asked and answered, in my opinion, in the previous lawsuits that were out there. So I didn't see any more information that they provided that was any different from either side, for that matter. In this hearing or in this go around versus the last one, there was really not much that had changed or anything that had changed that I could tell. So I voted the way I voted, and now it's in the hands of the courts, and we'll see what they decide.
And in our newsletter tomorrow, we do have comments from Eddie Rood and Kurt Cromer, and we will link to the entire filing, which I think was like 55 or 57 pages. Does the town have like 30 days to respond now, or is that it's usually back and forth in the court and the town's turn now to respond?
Well, I think there's something to respond, and it's public record. So when you read it, to me, it sounds like the entire thing is about they didn't feel that they had enough time to review the evidence or review the stuff that was put forth. But at least I'm not a lawyer, but at least that's what it seemed like to me.
All righty. So you went to Tallahassee last week. Can you kind of tell us how that trip went? I mean, other than it takes 40 hours to get there.
Yeah, no, it was we had a packed but productive meeting schedule with our delegation up there for the most part. We met with Senator Martin, Senator Passidomo, Representative Botana, Meredith Ivey, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but he's the aide for the Senate or the House presidency, Renner. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but we had a pretty packed schedule, but it was essentially to talk about, to thank them for what they've done with the Senate Bill 250 to get it out. When Chris and I were up there the last time, we asked for this program to get put in place for municipalities, and not just for us, but for other municipalities that may go through this, so that there's a program already in place. So it was essentially a thank you to give them an update as to where we were 6 months after the storm, because of what they've done in Tallahassee and helped the communities that were affected by Ian and Nicole. So that's essentially what it was. And we got a call from Meredith Ivey on Tuesday night, the first night I was up there, saying that she didn't want to get ahead of her skis, but she was hoping to have some good news for the following day, because we had turned in our bridge loan application on Thursday of the week before. And I sent an email the day we sent in the bridge loan application. I had sent an email to the governor, Director Guthrie, Meredith Ivey, everyone involved, our delegation, and essentially just saying we understand that the request for the assistance that we had with permitting and that kind of staff had ended on the 28th, which was the 6-month anniversary. And, can they help us out, essentially? Because we were uncertain as to when the FEMA loan would come through or when this new bridge loan would come through. We didn't really have any details as to how long the process would take. So was there something that they could do to help us bridge that gap till we could figure out what it was? And Meredith Ivey, who's the sitting director of the DEO, or the secretary, I'm sorry, of the DEO, messaged me back first thing that next morning. It was late in the afternoon when I sent it, that she had received our application, that her staff was working on it. Then fast forward to Tuesday when we were up there, we had gotten a call after our last meeting from the secretary, and she said she's looking forward to meeting us the next day, and she wanted to get ahead of her skis, but she was hoping for good news. And then we got the call a little bit later after that, saying that we were going to be meeting with the governor to accept, the check. We didn't actually know exactly what it was for, but we kind of assumed what it was for, and that's what ended up happening the next morning about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
So the bridge loan is for 1 year?
It's currently it's 1 year plus a 6-month extension. There was an amendment to the bill to potentially go 2 years with a 6-month extension, and it's 0% interest. After that, it goes to 10%. But that could change again through an amendment between now and then. But right now, I believe the amendment says it's 2 years plus an extension for 6 months. And the nice thing.
Wait. You said 2. It's 1 year. 1 year plus.
Currently, it's 1 year with a 6-month extension. But there was amendment to the current bill that will be heard in the legislature over the next week or two or three, that to potentially go to 2 years. So 24 months plus 6 months. So it could be a 30-month a loan to repay. So we don't know. Our hope is that we don't have to use that. Obviously, you don't want to borrow money. You don't want to use any money. You don't want to waste it. You don't want to spend money that you don't need to spend. So we're going to do our best to make sure we can use the least amount of that as possible.
But the other thing is, it's not going to be that easy. Let's say you do use it. It's not going to really be that easy to pay it back the first year. You guys do need more time than that, right? I mean, the revenue's not coming in yet.
Well, exactly. And this year, our revenue won't be probably as bad as next year. Next year is the unknown. Next year is going to be what is our ad valorem tax going to look like? We don't know that yet. Nobody really knows that yet. Matt Caldwell and his office are working on that, and they'll let us know as soon as they have an idea, so we can start working on next year. But it's there to help us relieve, I guess, one aspect of the greater thing, and that's making sure that the town government operates the way it normally operates. So there was calculations that go in. They had put aside $50 million. We got 11.9 something,
Yep.
around 11.9 million, which is essentially 2 years of our general fund ad valorem operating costs. So that's how that number, I wasn't involved in the calculations of how they got to why that specific number, but that's how the calculations worked out. So knowing that we have that, we'll bring it forth on the 17th as a resolution for the council and the public to see and talk through it and see if there's any issues that anyone sees or any problems. Once that's signed, the money will be deposited into the town's account pretty quickly, is my understanding. So we'll be able to now start working on some of these capital improvement projects, because this loan is only for operations. You can't use it to build Bayside Park. You can't use it to do Bayfront. I mean, you can't use it Times Square. You can't use it it literally is for operations only. So, but that could free up some money to be able to start those projects that are obligated, so we can start getting reimbursed from FEMA.
Okay, so in operations means pay the salaries, run the government, whatever you need to keep the doors open at town hall.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, so is there any news on town hall since we last spoke about it being demolished, or?
There's this week the adjuster that we approved to get hired is supposed to have his engineer in there to do that. Once that's done, we are in the queue with debris cleanup to have it removed. That is the last hurdle we have to jump through to be able to get it taken down. FEMA has given us the okay. Our insurance company has given us the okay. Now the insurance adjuster needs to have his person put eyes on it, which I think is going to be, if it was either today or tomorrow. So we're going to let them know that we're ready for that building to come down, and then we'll see where we're at in the queue.
And so last time I think we spoke about town hall being rebuilt, you guys were considering like a $32 million Taj Mahal kind of thing. It was just an option. I know it wasn't something you were going to vote on or approve, but so let's say, it starts to move along with town hall. Where are we at on a new building? Like, do you know what you're going to build?
Well, no, we don't. I mean, and that's part of the process. We need to get, so it's pretty complex. So we're in these trailers that are being paid for by the state right now. That's going to come to an end in June and July. We are on borrowed property. We are on the fire department's property. We have a lease to be on there, or an agreement to be on there until November. Obviously, they want their property back. So once we get town hall taken down, we have a scenario where we have to decide where are we going to move these trailers if this is what we're going to be in. Are we going to move them to town hall? Well, if we move them there, in my opinion, then how do you build back on a site where you're already sitting? If you put them in Bay Oaks, now you're in the way of building back Bay Oaks. So we're kind of in a in a spot where we have to work through that. So to design a building, it's hard to design a building until you know where that building's going to sit. You're going to sit where we're at. We're talking with the fire department all the time to working with them. Chief Worth has been great working with us, as well as former Chief Martin. They've been great. So they've been able to help us out. But that to me is kind of our biggest pressing concern right now is where is town hall operations going to be come November when we have to be off that property. So we need to get that building down so we have options. We need to get our options presented to FEMA so we know what FEMA is willing to reimburse. whether it's the trailers, whether it's purchasing a building, whatever it may be, whether it's building the Bay Oaks building that is already permit ready on Bay Oaks and using that as town hall until we can get town hall built. So we're looking at all the options. We had a meeting with the bank today that has the initial loan that we had for Bay Oaks, Times Square, and Bayside Park, because the drawdown on that ends in November. They're completely being great about it. They're working with us. They've allowed us to go an extra 6 months. They've allowed us to potentially use it for other projects other than those three. So
no kidding.
Yes,
Wow.
our staff is working really hard on trying to come forth with a plan so that we could start making some of these things happen. You know, the sooner we get these things built, the sooner we'll get people back, the sooner we can start doing the things that we were normally used to before the storm.
There's a bunch of questions that are popping up here, and I don't want to miss anyone else's questions. So I'm going to put them up here. And if you have any for the mayor, just you can type them in there and we'll throw them on the screen. Our friend Dave says, will the property tax relief as a result of the hurricane have an impact on projected funds going to the town?
Okay, let me read it. Sorry. Will the property tax relief as a result have an impact on projected funds going to the town? Yeah. Essentially, that's what we were just talking about. So that's what started us down this path. The town manager and I about revenue replacement. That was the big word. We don't know once this tax relief happened that makes a big hit to the town. Maybe not this year, but potentially next year. So how do we offset that? How do we offset that revenue? I mean, it's great for everyone except for the town that needs that revenue to come in to operate. So that's why they put together this bridge loan that we applied for. We were the ones that asked for it. We were the first person to apply for it. We were the first persons to get it. So we're doing everything we can to be prepared for what we think is going to come. We're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
So the emergency berm sand, I mean, obviously people can see it out there, when they go out on the beach or when they're driving by and you have those big open spaces where you can see the sand. And somebody asked me a question on Saturday that I couldn't answer. We were looking across from, where was I? Lazy Way. I was standing by Lazy Way, and you look across the street there and you can see all the sand piled up. It was like it was piled up in piles, but it wasn't spread out or it wasn't pushed down or anything. Is that the goal of it? You're just going to leave it as high as it is and leave it like that?
No. So the piles that we were seeing along Estero Boulevard were there we were staging it. It started down on the south end, and we were staging the sand until we could find out that we were going to be able to get obligated for the federal reimbursement, the FEMA funds. So that's what those were there for. We were trying to stay ahead of the game as much as we could, because of the delay in getting the obligated funds from FEMA. We were dealing with, now we're going to be pushed in. The hope was to be done with the berm by the start of turtle season.
Right.
We're obviously going to run into turtle season a little bit now. I don't know the exact time frame of how far into turtle season. So there's other things that you have to do now to mitigate, what you can do, when you can work. So you notice those piles starting to pile up all the way up and down Estero Boulevard. Now you're starting to see those piles get moved out onto the actual sand, onto the beach, and then they'll start laying it out from there. So we did receive the almost $6 million from FEMA to get the project moving forward. So now it's full steam ahead, and that's kind of where we're at. I don't have an exact date of when they project. I'm hoping this week we can get some sort of update as to a projected completion date for that berm.
So I mean, this might sound like a dumb question. I'm sure if Kim was here, she'd tell me it was dumb. But is the sand going to get flattened out, or how high up is it going to be? Like, I mean, I see their piles now, but are they just going to totally flatten it out across all the places where the easements were signed?
Well, it's going to be at 6 feet, above above the water line.
I got you.
I think it's the mean high water line. So essentially what you had before the storm is essentially what you're going to have hopefully after the storm, if you obviously sign the waiver and you and you're part of the program. So no, you're not going to see those massive mounds of sand like that. It's 6 feet above. So if you have a 4-foot crater, you're going to get 10 feet of sand to get it to that 6 foot height. If you're at 4 feet now, you're only going to get 2 feet of sand. So if you remember back to the graphs, I know there's a lot of graphs and a lot of things to understand, but I think the major thing to understand is the 6 foot high. That's not 6 foot of sand in front of your house. It's 6 foot above the water, sorry, just slipped my mind. The 6 foot not mean
High tide water line, the high.
No, it's no, just slipped my mind.
It's 6 feet or something. It's not
It's
60
yeah,
feet. Not 16
6
feet
feet
or
above
6
sea level. 6
Okay,
feet above
got
sea
you.
level. There you go.
All right,
so
so
many
that-
terms.
That answers that question. As far as those big piles now, they're not gonna stay that high. So let's see.
Before you
were
move
talking.
on, I see there's
Go
a
ahead.
lot of conversation going on about the license plate.
I know. I'm trying to ignore that.
I'm talking about the tag, the sticker, like the yellow sticker that you get. Every car I've ever had since I've lived in Florida, the tag has been
Your
attached
birthday.
to my birthday. So just to kind of clear that up, I'm not talking about not the plate itself, just the little yellow sticker you get. And I know in
Gotcha.
some states, like back in Minnesota, it changes color every year. At least it used to, a different color every year, and it wasn't attached to your birthday. But in Florida, it seems like every car I've had has been attached to my birthday.
I forgot to ask you the softball question to start the show. That somebody wanted to know what part of Minnesota that you were from or by.
Oh yeah, something. Didn't you say it was someone from Ham Lake?
Ham Lake. Yeah.
Ham Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived in just south of Ham Lake, right on the northern border of Blaine and Ham Lake, right off of Radisson Road. So the person from Ham Lake probably knows where that's at. Lived just on the curve there before you get to the Ham Lake border off of Radisson Lake Road.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm sure
Yeah,
a lot of
they'll
people
know.
out there
They'll
from
know. So-
Minnesota.
I lived in northern. So I was born in St. Paul. Lived in St. Paul for a while. Then we moved to Cottage Grove. Lived in Cottage Grove for quite a while off of 80th in Jamaica. I was just talking to another guy that was from that area. We lived out there before the Menards and all that stuff was out there. It used to be a Cub Foods that we used to go to, and I had a paper route and all that. I went to Olton Junior High. I was going to go to Park High when we moved out to Spring Lake Park. That's where I ended up going to high school. From there, I ended up going up to Blaine and being in Blaine, and then I lived in Rochester for a couple of years. And then before I moved down here, I lived in the Plymouth Maple Grove kind of area, right up by the Loop. So right on the corner of the Loop up there. So it's there. There you go. That's my Minnesota, and that was 2012. I lived there until 2012. Born and raised.
Dan Allers, this is your life, and we just got.
Now we answered all the questions.
I did want to pass along
I'm
a
still
comment.
representing. Look at, I can't remember which way it is. Still.
Yeah.
Still my team.
Vikings. Yeah. It's just an anonymous comment that the person wanted me to pass off to you and not say his or her name. Today I went to the town tent with a permit and water issues, and both were resolved with great customer service. So every once in a while, we talk about the permitting and frustrations from the permitting, and it's nice to get compliments too that things are moving along.
Well,
so
yeah, it's nice. It's shifting the other direction now. It's starting to shift, and and we knew it was going to take time. You can't. It took us 5 years to get to where we were at, and we're only 6 months after the storm. So we're projecting the right way. Staff has been working their tails off over the last 6 months to get in the right position. I think we've got the right people in place. We've got the right process we're trying to put in place, and it's going to take a little bit more time. We're not completely out of the woods yet by any means, and we're still working on it. But it's nice to see that we're going in the right direction.
Right. And last week, I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but there were 4 members of the permitting department that were being funded by either the state or the feds that their time expired, and the town council hired them back. They somehow found the money to keep those people on, knowing how I think Keith and Chris only asked for 3, and you guys wound up hiring 4. How important it is.
Yeah, Steve Poposky, he really wanted 4, and the town managers felt that 3 would suffice, and if this is our biggest issue and 4 is what the person in charge thinks that they need, then let's get them what they need. And we certainly don't want to waste any resources, so they got to keep them busy.
A sign popped up. I don't know what day of the week it was, but a sign popped up that I took a picture of and posted. It gets, when people see something's about to reopen, they get really excited about it because there's nothing open on the beach. There's nowhere to get a gallon of gas or a sandwich or anything like that. I mean, a store. You can obviously go to a food truck on Times Square and different areas along Estero, but there's nowhere to go shopping. And when the Publix sign said, reopening soon, everyone got a little jacked up about it. The thing that nobody knows is when. And what I don't understand is why that corporation doesn't communicate with you guys and let you know the date.
I don't know. We really haven't received any communication from any of the corporations on the island. CVS, Publix, 7-Eleven, none of them that I know of have reached out to town hall and said, here's our plan, here's what we're thinking, here's a time frame. You know, we have, as far as I know, we haven't heard anything, and I'm there every day.
I mean, you would think that would be like a major date that people could look forward to, that Publix especially. I mean, you know, you go by there every weekend, the shelves are still empty, but at least that sign is up there. So I don't know what this,
you know, I would think if they learned anything through this entire process, is that, you know, our residents just want answers. They just want to know. Even if it's bad news, at least they know. At least they can plan. At least it's the unknown. It's the not knowing when you're coming back. Anybody can put a sign up that says we're rebuilding or we'll be back soon. Well, what does that mean? I mean, at least give it a tentative date, but you know, nobody's going to hold you to it. Just at least provide some answers. And there's been no press release. There's been no communication. It's unacceptable in my opinion. I think that, you know, we shouldn't have to chase these corporations down to ask, you know, if you're coming back, are you not coming back? If you are coming back, when do you think you're going to come back? I mean, the residents over decades have provided funds to these corporations, years and years and years. And I think it's not a lot to ask to simply provide some sort of time frame, or at least some sort of information.
100%. I don't know if you know this, but people have been asking me, they're doing some work on the Beach Theater building. Do we have any idea what's going on there? Have they applied for permits that you know of to put something in there?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll have to look into that for sure. So anything new on the town manager's position? We still on target to have the contract negotiated and Andy starting soon?
Yeah, I believe the goal is to have it back before council on the 17th, you know, a week from today. So we'll see what happens. You know, I'm not involved in the negotiation, so I don't know how that sits. Karen Woodson Councilor Woodson is involved in that, along with the town attorney and the town manager. So we'll see where it comes back, and we'll hopefully be able to get this finalized on the 17th.
So has any work started on Bay Oaks yet? I know that the contract was supposed to be signed last week, and they were supposed to get to work on that and then be ready to roll in 90 days. Any update on Bay Oaks?
No, I haven't I didn't get a chance to talk to Keith today about where we are with the contract. You know, we awarded the contract, or we awarded the right to sign a contract, but I don't know that the contract's been signed yet. But they sounded like they're eager and ready to go. They want the keys right away. So trust me, we're moving as fast as we can with that. We want to get that done. We were hoping we'd already be done with it, but we're at where we're at now, and we're moving as fast as we can.
All right. So another question, any update on the street lights, and will they be part of any project that you're getting all this money from?
Well, we're still, that was one of our appropriation requests to the legislature. You know, just to kind of give a quick update, we had met several times with FPL, tried to work with FPL from our level all the way up to the highest state level, to get them to work with us. And, you know, they came back, and we went through a couple of renditions, and we got back to potentially a $7.9 million all amber for side streets, basically every light, every street on the island. FPL is going to move forward with designing that on the town's behalf. Depending on how the money for the crosswalks comes into play from the county, that could potentially bring that number down. But we did discuss that when we were up in Tallahassee last week. Let them know that that's a very important thing for us. We know we're getting close to turtle season without these buildings. We know FPL shuts the power off to those lights for disorientations, and there's going to be a lot more glow to the street with no houses there, especially from the side streets. So our fear is, obviously, it's dark now. How dark is it going to be when they shut those lights off? FPL understands that. My understanding is that they're working forward with a design. Hopefully we can get the appropriation money to come through the state legislature. We specifically asked for that again this time to show how important it was. Ron Book, our lobbyist, was there with us. He helped us reiterate the importance of that. So I don't have any updates. We'll see what comes out of legislature, but right now that's our best path. We obviously don't have $8 million or $7.9 million to put forth for streetlights. That's just a lot of money the town doesn't have to get reimbursed or potentially get reimbursed on.
So, Wendy, no, I believe all the beach vendors that open the restaurants and stuff, they all take cards. I mean, I don't know that there's any that are just cash anymore. I mean, especially like in Times Square, once they got the power back, Laola was taking cards. And as far as I know, I don't know that anybody I know Wahoo Willie's is, all those restaurants down there that are open are taking credit cards. So I don't think it's just cash. Have you heard any possibility of a 4th of July parade?
I have not. And we're always involved in those, so I have not heard anything about that yet.
Okay. Karen brought that up on Saturday, so she might must be hearing something that didn't make it your way yet. So, I mean, do you think the town is ready for a parade? Is Cerro Boulevard ready?
There's still a lot of debris out there. Let's put it that way. We'll see.
So
I'm not opposed to anything in July. Believe it or not, is as close as it is. It's still a long ways away.
Mm-hmm.
We're still moving a lot of debris. There's still a lot of debris on the sidewalks. I mean, we got to make sure it's safe. If it's not safe, then it doesn't make sense.
FEMA is leaving the Beach Baptist this week. I think Thursday at 6:00 is their last day here. Everyone's bailing out. The Saints leaving. FEMA's leaving. Are they done with us? I mean, do we not need them anymore on the beach?
Well, it's their standard procedure is 6 months after the storm, things start to wind down. They hope that you're back on your feet as much as you can. They've answered all the questions that you can. As we've seen through the news, there's other disasters that have now happened, and they need to move to places where people are needed more. So we knew it was coming. It hasn't been a secret. Everybody's known all along that March 28th was kind of going to be a deadline. They've been around a little bit longer, but we all knew it was coming.
Okay. So is there anything that you want to bring up that I didn't ask? Anything about Tallahassee? Anything about Senate Bill 250 that the people need to watch that, or is there any way to support that, or are there any?
No,
any
that's already done. That's
okay.
That part of it's been done. Now it's the appropriations. We're going to watch how the appropriations come out. We've heard anything that there could be 25 to 350 million. How that gets appropriated yet, we don't know. So the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be very important for the town to pay attention to how that gets done, whether it's going to be through grants or how it's going to end up. We aren't sure yet. The legislature isn't sure yet. That's going to be discussed through the committees and through all different levels over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be paying close attention to that to see where we line up. But we are moving forward with trying to tee up our projects that we can get done. Talking with the bank today was a huge help. That was another alleviation. So, we just try to make progress every day, make one step every day closer to the goal of getting back to where we were before the storm hit. And, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience. But trust me when I tell you, everybody inside those trailers is working their tails off to make sure we get everything we can.
In your mind, Dan, what are the top 3 projects? Let's say you get money and you can spend money and you don't have to worry about it. What are the top 3 projects you want to get done first?
Well, I think the one has already started. Obviously the beach berm and the beach nourishment is important. Town hall is very important. You got to have a place to operate. As I said before, we're kind of on borrowed time with the land that we're sitting on, so we got to work through that with the fire department and staff and finances and figure out what's the best course of action, what FEMA is willing to reimburse, because we did lose the town hall, so that can get classified under the PA projects through FEMA reimbursement. So we're working on that. And then I'd say the third one is probably the street lighting. I mean, we're coming upon turtle season, and we all know how dark it is now, and it's going to get even darker. So those are the 3, I think, top priorities that we have to focus on. Obviously, some of the other, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but some of the projects that are under $1 million or under $500,000 to replace, we're looking at those because those are obviously things that the town can get started to start getting that reimbursement money coming back in from FEMA to help fund these other projects. So it's going to be some discussions with the town hall. Like I said, do we try to use the building that's already permit ready and then put it where it was designed to go with a loan that's already in place to do that? So that we have a place to operate that's our own as we rebuild the town hall, whatever it's going to be. So those are all decisions I think the council is going to have to work through along with staff and figure out what's the best course of action to help us get back to where, our staff has a place to work. People have a comfortable place where they can come in and not be at 7 or 8 different trailers scattered all over. And let's not forget those trailers are temporary too. They're, we're coming into hurricane season again, and we're working out of trailers that, we're
Yep.
a good storm away from losing those. So that's a pretty big focus for us to figure out. Obviously, we're working on the cleaning out the storm drains because we know rainy season's coming. So it's hard to say what's the most important, but I'd say those are the top ones that we really need to focus on and the most expensive that we really need to focus on to get started, because a new town hall, you're looking at 2 to 3 years. It's going to take you a year to design something and then a year or two to build it. So,
got to have a place to operate.
You got to have a place to operate.
Yeah, PJ, I see that Senator Rick Scott and Congressman Donalds are working on that, but I haven't seen it go any further than it's in the works. And I know it is a disaster, but it's not I don't know what the word is, but there's a word before disaster which gives people more of a break on their taxes. But I haven't heard that it has gone anywhere other than that it's just sitting somewhere in Congress, and I don't know if there's even a vote plan for it. So I hadn't heard anything new on that, but if we do, I'm sure we'll get a press release from Congressman Donalds' office, because he has been pushing for that along with Senator Rick Scott. So, all right, Dan, we'll call it a day. Go ahead.
Well, just real quick, I have gotten a couple of emails about parking and receiving violations about being, parking in the right of way. You have to remember, if you're parked in the right of way is there for fire and rescue. It's there to, if there's an emergency, they have to be able to get through. And if cars are blocking that, it doesn't do anybody any good, especially if they're in need of an emergency. So just try not to, I don't think we need to put signs on every single street to tell you you're not supposed to park there. I think it's common knowledge that parking in the right of way is not something you should be doing, especially with the big debris trucks and the fire trucks and stuff that need to get around. So, and obviously parking in people's private yards is probably not a good idea either. We can't do much about that, but just be cognizant if you can of where you're parking and try to stay out of the way. And the staff is working hard. The last thing they want to do is give someone a parking ticket for parking on a street or something. But so if you can help out that way, and please know it's not they're not out there just looking for people to give tickets to. It's not the mentality.
All right, Dan, and yes, qualified disaster was the word I was looking for, Chris. So thank you for that. We will we'll talk to you in a week and probably see you before that. But thanks a lot and have a great night.
You as well. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Dan Allers, everybody, and we do have we do want to give you an update on the events that we're organizing in both April and May. So hang on for that. But of course, we want to thank our friends who sponsor the show, and that includes Mike Bannock. If you're still looking for demolition, debris removal, interior demolition, lot leveling, or to get your utilities capped off, call our friend Mike Bannock. He's been on the beach a while, helping out hundreds and hundreds of people. And you can call him at 352-636-3719. That's 352-636-3719. Steve's Appraisal Service. You might need an appraisal. It's amazing to think that you still might need an appraisal 6 months plus after the storm. But if you do, you want to call the husband and wife team at Steve's Appraisal, and they are local. And you can call them on his cell phone, which is 219-405-8283. That's 219-405-8283. They're a small husband and wife team, and they will help you out. They even do appraisals for divorces. An interesting concept there. So give them a call, or you can go right online and check them out at stevesappraisalservice.com. You can call their office, too, if you don't want to bother him on his cell. It's 239-837-8379. All right, so we have two events coming up. Both are for local organizations, and the first one is April the 29th, and this time it's going to be at Moss Marina over by Snug Harbor and Wahoo Willie's, and it's going to be another concert event where we have a stage, and Stephen Clark is providing the first performer, which is Bill Beck, and then we have a split decision on after that. So the concert event's going to start at 4:30. It's free. We're asking you, if you can, to bring a backpack full of supplies for the Kids Foundation, for the Beach Kids Foundation. We're going to donate all those to Linda Beasley as they're getting ready to collect backpacks for the kids going back to school. That's April 29th. It's, we'll be all out there 3 or 4 o'clock setting up. We've invited the nonprofit organizations again, like we did in Times Square. So you'll be able to mingle with them and see what they're up to and see what they're doing. And then the music starts at 4:30 with Bill Beck, and then split decision right after Bill plays. And then, of course, the 5K is set for May 13th. Of course, it's all pending the special events permit that we're waiting for from the town. We're going in front of the town council on April the 17th. We've spoken to Eve at Turtle Time to make sure we follow all the rules with the lights and the turtles. And we're hoping to get Lynn Hall Park. The mayor said he was going to help out with that by calling the county. We're hoping to get Lynn Hall Park open at maybe 6 o'clock, an hour earlier than usual, so that people can park a little earlier so they don't have to rush. The race is going to start at 8 o'clock. It's a 5K timed race with a professional timer. There's medals for every age category from the teens to 80 years old. The top 3 men, the top 3 women are all going to get medals. They're nice medals. I ordered them today. They look pretty cool. They have the race logo on the front, and they'll say first place, second place, or third place in your age category on the back. And there's going to be a 1 mile run, which is not timed. It's a fun run. And then walkers are welcome too. Everybody that registers, you probably seen the website to register on our Facebook page. It's going to be in the newsletter tomorrow. And everybody that registers for whatever, the 5K or the 1 mile, or even if you just register because you want to walk, you'll get a free t-shirt. Of course, it's going to be yellow. So you're going to stand out in the crowd. And in one day last week, when we first started to tell people about the event on Facebook, we have now 130 registrations already for running and walking and the 5K. And there's also a virtual element, so you can do it from anywhere in the country. And you can, if you register, we'll mail you the shirt, so you can take a picture and send us where you are, where you're doing the 5K virtually. But I do need to thank the sponsors, because again, in 24 hours, we got 16 of them, including the Pink Shell, Team Swanback, La Ola Restaurant, Stephanie Barrett from Keller Williams, Studio AD Architect, Southwest Florida Local Union 826, Chrissy Wagner at KW Elite Realty, American Pride Security, Junkanoo Fresh Catch and 2 Meatballs, so 3 restaurants, Cedar Valley Exteriors, Greek's Pizzeria, Jeff Haller of Haller Realty and Remax, Distinctive Beach Rentals, 239 Cafe, Current Coastal Realty, and Holy Cow. All those sponsors are going to be on the website where you can register, which again will be in the newsletter tomorrow. And they're going to be on the registration website and in the newsletter tomorrow. So hopefully you can click on them and check them out if you have any needs for any of our sponsors. Again, it's 8 o'clock is race time. We pushed it back from 7:30 just to make sure that we didn't have to set up with any lights for the turtles. And it's going to be running the hard sand right on Fort Myers Beach. You're going to leave Times Square, which is where the starting line and the finish line are going to be. You're going to make a left-hand turn, and you're going to go 0.5 miles. And that'll really be where the 1 mile fun run is, because then you're going to come right across the finish line there. And then if you're running the 5K, you're going to turn around and go all the way down to Bowditch. And there's going to be a water station at the Pink Shell, which they're helping out with. So you can get water either on your way down to Bowditch or on the way back. And then the finish line will be right at where the poinsettia tree usually is around the holiday. So I timed it out on Saturday. I haven't timed it out perfectly yet, but I'm going to get it right by May 13th. So the race starts at 8 o'clock. We'll get the runners in the front, the ones that are going to be competitive, and then the walkers in the back. And again, we're going to invite all the nonprofits, and we're also going to have our merchandise tent set up. One of the things I forgot about the April 29th event was the Tuckaway Cafe food truck is going to be at the parking lot at Moss Marina. So they're also going to be there, and hopefully you get a chance to check them out in their parking lot. They just started serving craft beer again down there. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We shipped about, 40 or so hoodies yesterday. We're still shipping them out, hoodies and zip-ups and the 5 shirts. We have them all. So thank you all for supporting the show. Thank you all for supporting the website and the newsletter and coming to our goofy events. We appreciate it very much. You all have a great Monday night, and we'll be back again Friday night. We're doing a special show from Laguna Shores on Friday night, taking the show on the road to a neighborhood near you. Bye-bye.